Well, hey guys, welcome to Hope Rescue Podcast. This is Kimberly and Tim Scott. We're glad you're hanging with us here for the next, I don't know, who knows, 20, 30 minutes, could be
2
more,
hours.
could be less. If it was a Sunday morning, you'd have a timer set where you, actually we
do have a timer
We do have a
set.
timer
Yeah.
set. Yeah, just sometimes we go longer
We try to keep them
or
relatively
shorter.
brief.
Yeah. Babe, you look good today. People can't see him right now, but I feel like he's giving me some like John Travolta meets Negan from Walking Dead vibes.
I was going for Negan. I need to get, what's it called, Betsy? What was that?
Oh, the bat. Yes.
I don't recommend that show.
No, I know. If you bought one of those, I'd probably have to report you.
Yeah, that was a pretty wicked.
I know, but the leather jacket, it's the black on black you're wearing today. Plus,
When you get on my motorcycle.
Yeah.
The one you made me
remember
sell.
that? We should tell him that story real quick.
Well, so there was a time when I was single and I had motorcycles, and then I got married, and then she was worried about not me dying, but me being maimed.
But losing a leg or an arm
and her
or
having
both.
to take care of me. So that's how that goes pretty deep.
I know. I'm sorry, sweetie. I'll buy you one. It'll just be the kind that you can get off a shelf.
Yeah. We bought a car and sent a girl to college, and you know,
that's true.
there's
That's
things
true.
that we did.
Oh, did we start off on the wrong foot? You're gonna be sad this morning.
Nope.
Okay.
I just wear the jacket still.
Well, so today's a fun day because we've been telling you guys to send in different questions. And so we're going to take this week and next week and just answer some random questions that we've gotten.
If you would like to send in questions, even still, we're going to answer some questions here. But write to info@hoperescuepodcast.org.
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah. Or just hoperescue.org. You can send any questions that way.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can also send them through Instagram and Facebook because we have a presence in both of those. So
that's true.
yeah, we check them all.
By the way, if you have not checked out our website, you need to check it out because it's got a lot of stuff on there you're going to see. And we've got a surprise coming this year, some exciting new ministry development. And we'll share a little bit more about that as time
good
goes
stuff
on.
coming. Yeah. So let's jump into our first question. We're going to get kind of down and dirty with it, Tim.
Down and dirty. I see the question. I'm like, okay, dirty's not the right
How
word.
to keep your marriage romantic when in lockdown. Bow chicka wow wow.
Well, that's a pretty big question, I would think.
It is.
But I don't know about the lockdown, how that's different.
That
other
sounds naughty
than-
too.
Yeah. Wow. You're spicy
Sorry.
today. You need to drink some tea, please. For me, it is always that way. But I think in lockdown, you're kind of with each other so much
Yes.
that it does affect, your relationship.
Oh,
it
yeah.
does. You just kind of, like, I remember I took my first, this was years ago, and I took, I don't remember who it was. Was it Craig Rochelle was saying you need to take vacation? We heard that clip from somebody.
It was actually Ed Young Jr.
Oh, Ed Young
Yes.
Jr. And he said you need to take at least 3 weeks in a row.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I thought, man, I really need to hear that. I think one of your friends sent it to you. And
Yeah, it was Lori Wilhite. And what was interesting is that I had been married to you for several years, but I actually asked you why we don't do vacations, and you said very proudly, I never take vacations.
Yeah.
You had never taken your paid vacations all those years of pastoring, which was so weird to me.
Yeah, I just wouldn't really. I mean, I took some vacations here and there, but irrespective of that, we decided to do that. And so we didn't have a lot of money to do stuff because we had kids.
Yeah, so
we
many
did a little
kids.
bit. I mean, there were times where we did cruises and different things, but here we are just at home, and you go, you know what, Tim? I think you need to never retire because you'll be home all the time, driving me crazy. And now in the lockdown, I'm driving you crazy.
No, you're not. Actually, I will say it's been a year into it almost.
Yeah.
And I think we were driving each other crazy, especially in the first 6 months, because you're a very routine guy.
Yeah.
And so since I've known you, even with the 5 children, you kept your routines and nothing changed that. And that's what made your life work. And because I'd been a single mom, actually it worked for me because I didn't have to defer or change like life kind of went on.
Right.
I felt like I had a partner if I needed you in the, like, if something happened in the morning and you needed to take someone to school, but rarely did that happen. So anyway, all that to say that when the lockdown happened and we're all at home and you're having to work from home and our daughter is going to school at home and I'm at home actually more probably than anybody, but I liked that because it gave me space to get stuff done that I needed to get done. And
well, you're kind of on top of each other and that's what we're talking about. So, sex.
You're welcome. And next week.
Well, let me read this scripture that I think is valuable for this, because obviously this is not just a question for today, but this question was asked of Paul the Apostle by the Corinthian Christians. And there was special circumstance. I'll explain that in a moment. But that special circumstance led some people to believe that maybe sex was wrong. Anyway, here it is. Now concerning the matter about which you wrote, it is good for a man not to have sexual relations with a woman. Now, if he stopped right there, it's like, okay, we're out of sex. But notice what he says. It's good for a man not to have sex with a woman. And what he's saying is that in special circumstance, later on in that chapter, in verse 26, it says this. I think that, listen to this, I think that in view of the present distress, it is good for a person to remain as he is. Are you bound to a wife? Do not seek to be free. If you are free from a wife, do not seek a wife. And so there's something going on in Corinth, and there was a lot of sexual immorality. But I'm not sure what those special circumstances, he doesn't say what they are, but that in those circumstances, it caused the people to think, maybe we shouldn't even be having sex. Maybe that's wrong. But then he explains the important part of sex in verse 2. You want to read that?
Sure. It says, but because of the temptation to sexual immorality, each man should have his own wife and each woman her own husband. The husband should give to his wife her conjugal rights. That sounds very like, I don't know.
Sounds like what it is.
And likewise, the wife to her husband. For the wife does not have authority over her own body, but the husband does. And likewise...
Wait, stop right there. Wouldn't that be great if that's all it said?
Well,
you are the boss of your wife's body.
Yeah, a lot of men feel that way.
Yeah, look at the rest of it.
But likewise, the husband does not have authority over his own body, but the wife does. Don't deprive each other, except perhaps by agreement for a limited time, that you may devote yourselves to prayer. But then come back together again so that Satan won't tempt you because of your lack of self-control.
You know, I counseled a couple years ago, and the guy is just saying, hey, my wife never wants to have sex with me. And every time I try to pursue her, she said, I am committing myself to prayer. That is not what Paul's saying.
Wow.
He is not saying use prayer to get out of sex. What he's saying is sex should be a regular part of marriage. Now, there are extenuating circumstances of health and that kind of thing and so forth. But the reality is when people are physically healthy and psychologically healthy, they should be intimate with each other. So how do you cultivate that? He said you have to see, first and foremost, from a biblical perspective, my body belongs to you. And so your responsibility is to take care of me.
Right.
Your body belongs to me, and I'm responsible for your physical needs. And if you see that in your marriage, it's going to make a difference.
You probably would never need a marriage counselor in your life if that really was how you lived your life in your marriage, is to love the other person the way you would love to be loved.
Yeah.
And if both people were doing that, because that's pretty powerful stuff right there. And I think we need to like talk about the distinguish, and maybe we'll get into more detail on this, the difference between having a sex life and like how we led into this, having romance in your marriage.
Yeah, let's get into that in a minute. One of the things, like right at the top, when you think about what you see on social media, if you compare your relationship with the relationships you see on social media, you're going to be unhappy. In fact, let's put it another way. If you go to church, now we don't get to go to church these days as much. You go to church and you see couples are really loving and, standing together and holding hands and stuff. You don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but especially on social media where you can edit and clip and,
right.
and filter.
Create like the highlight reel of your life.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can make your life look better than it actually is.
Yeah. And I think for a lot of people who are struggling in their own lives and their marriages, it's easy to fixate and fuel yourself and distract yourself on social media when you're not feeling the love at home. And that only further creates a sense of discontentment.
Yeah.
And that's not healthy.
I think the reason people become discontent is because they don't see what marriage really is. Mm-hmm. It's not about you, it's about your partner. Mm-hmm. And secondly, about the us.
Right.
But here's what a lot of guys miss, because guys are very, compartmentalized in so many ways. Now, some women are too. I don't mean to broad brush, but, a man looks at sex as a compartmental event. Women do not see it that way. They see sex as a connection of the heart. That's kind of mm-hmm. intuitive, mm-hmm. but it should be for men as well.
Yes.
And
it's meant to be.
Yeah, it's meant to be. Mm-hmm. Start with a connection with his heart or her heart before the physical, before the sexual.
Yes.
I think that's one of the points of advice that we would like to make with you. If you make it about the physical, then if there's a flaw, like I just realized here in 2020, next year in 2021, in 2021, next year in 2022, I turn 70.
Yeah.
So a 70-year-old does not look like a 25-year-old. And my poor wife has this body to deal with.
My poor wife? Are you kidding me?
I mean, I was really hot at 25.
You're smoking hot.
Yeah, well, and that goes to, your perception of me and so forth. But the thing about it is your body's age, things change.
Right.
And as much as you try to take care of yourself, beauty fades.
Yeah.
And it's not about the body. It's not about the physical. It's about the connection of heart.
Right.
And the sooner you get to that, the more valuable sex will become to you. Romance will flourish.
And I think the less, for some couples, especially after there's been distance for whatever reason, if there's a connection of the heart, the less intimidating, the less stressful sex will be, the more natural, the more comfortable, instead of making it this big event, it becomes about closeness and intimacy instead of, this big thing you got to put on the calendar and make it happen. So,
yeah, if you look at sex through the grid of personal gratification, which is a very immature approach to sex. If you see it first and foremost about gratification, you're not going to make it about intimacy. So make sex about intimacy, not about erotic connection. I think that's really important. Now, there are erotic aspects of that, and our children listen to this. They don't want to hear that nonsense. But,
our daughter is the producer right now.
Yeah, and she's got her headphones on.
It's not weird at all.
Listening
She's
to
walking in a corner like, somebody get me out of
praise
here.
Music. Anyway, it's really important, as valuable as connecting physically is, and how beautiful that is. It is really about the soul intimacy.
Yes. Yeah. And so how do we bridge that? Because we're talking to probably the majority of couples have young children and they don't get the time away. Husbands don't get time away. So the tension gets high in the house during the day, the stress. So the goal is to forge through to your spouse's heart to begin that process of growing closer together. And one of the ways to do that is to affirm your spouse regularly through the day. And I think this is not just healthy for your relationship, but honestly, to emulate that in front of your children. There's something, I remember watching my parents, how my dad would speak so highly of my mom or my mom of my dad. They do it to this day. In our presence.
It's a little gross.
And they love each other so much, and how the comfort that brought me and so it's not to be disingenuous, but find something like, gosh, I really appreciate that you helped clean up breakfast this morning. Thank you so much. And,
Drifting is real easy to see when affirmation leaves the relationship.
Right.
And that drifting is dangerous because when you are drifting, you're vulnerable to others.
Right.
And so one of the ways to continually connect, I'll speak as a man, you men, one of the ways to continually connect with your wife is to really tell her what you appreciate about her, whether it's physical beauty, whether it's her beautiful heart, whether it's her tenderness, her kindness, whatever. You can find a ton of things wrong. If you can't find things wrong, you're not watching. We're
You're not
flawed
living with
people.
a human.
Yeah. And, to say that. But I want to go back to the thing about the kids because the kids are listening.
Yeah.
And if your kids treat each other with tremendous amount of disrespect and they yell at each other and cuss at each other, it's probably because you have shown them how to do that.
Yeah.
Now, it may not be. They may have gotten it from other sources, from TV and so forth. But if you continually show respect for each other, and one of the things I'm proud of with our kids is that they've watched us in a blended family love each other and heal that brokenness on both sides.
Yeah.
And that came through a lot of affirmation. I think they've seen that.
Yes.
And I don't mean to brag about that. I mean, it's just, we were really intentional about doing that.
Yeah, and you're right. For kids, a lot of it is caught. It's not necessarily taught.
Yeah.
But just to encourage you, if you didn't see that growing up, and so you feel like you don't have that to give, that's a lie. You can start today with your affirmation and creating that culture in your home with your children and with your spouse. It's just never too late. And so don't beat yourself up if you're like, I don't want anybody to leave this listening to this feeling like, once again, I'm falling short. That's not the point.
Right.
It's that these are practical steps to get you pointed the right direction as a couple and as a family.
One of the things I was thinking while you're talking is that I think if you can't think of things about your spouse to affirm and encourage, there's something deeper going on. There's a problem deeper. And if I were you, I would pursue that because God put this person is your gift from God. And you need to pursue that relationship at the level that it actually does matter. And so I would encourage you to really write it down. What are those things that matter to me, that mean a lot to me about my wife or my husband? I think it's really important.
Yeah.
One of the things I think is really important is regularly kissing and hugging.
Yeah.
Non-sexually. Now,
It could go there.
Yeah, it could go there. But there are times where it's good just to have that. I'm not looking for anything beyond this hug. When we hug, it is really powerful.
Yeah.
And, every morning, one of my favorite things in the morning, because I get up usually before you, is kissing you and, you're asleep and it just looks so beautiful.
It is dark out, by the way.
But it's just it's such a tender kiss and it's always
sweet,
such
babe.
a beautiful thing
I love
for
that
me.
Too.
So,
and it isn't sexual, just to be honest with you. It doesn't go anywhere from there because I haven't brushed my teeth. I'm asleep and you're off to work.
That'll kill the mood right there.
But that's also a really sweet thing to incorporate into the culture of your home and in being home together with kids, husband and wife, potentially husband working from home as well, is just to be able and kiss your wife and kiss your kids. We're talking about intimacy with your spouse, but this is just all basic stuff for creating a healthy
family
human relationships. Yeah.
So here, kind of boil it down to this: get creative in the way that you express your love for your spouse. Find ways to make him or her feel loved.
Yeah.
And do it every day. Figure out a way every day you can do that. It will be powerful to reach their heart.
Doesn't have to be big.
Yeah. We have another question, but before we get to it, I just wanted to say to you that are regular listeners and maybe some of you who are new, we want to encourage you. We have an incredible ministry at Hope Rescue. And if you go to our website, hoperescue.org. Now, when you search for that, we're working on the search engines, but when you search for that, it's going to come up with dog rescue stuff, but it'll say Hope Rescue, maybe United States or US or something like that. but it's hoperescue.org. That's the actual URL, and it will take you to our site. You can go to hoperescuepodcast.org. It'll do the same. And look at what we're doing. One of the things I want to emphasize is dealing with families at risk. We're feeding a few thousand people every month, and we're expanding that and expanding our outreach to churches and our food pantry truck, our mobile food pantry truck, and all of the things that we're doing with that. If you would like to be a part of that, we do need your help. And if you'd like to be a part of that, we would love for you to donate. When you come to that home page, it'll come to a video that shows an event that we put on. And that was pre-COVID, but now we're doing them under COVID regulations.
Almost weekly now. Yeah.
If you are interested in helping us, it'll have a little button there that says donate. We'd love for you. If you could just donate a little bit to help us out, we would really appreciate it. And then this podcast, we have a team that helps us produce this. And if you would like to help with the expenses of that, we'd love for your help. I don't want to emphasize that too much, but it would be a great blessing if you do that. Those of you who do, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It means a lot to us. And it's our joy to be part of that, giving to it as well, and giving to Hope Rescue ourselves. So here's the next question, Kimberly. How do I encourage my spouse who is working from home and is possibly losing his job?
His or her job.
Yeah, his or her job.
Yeah.
And this is probably the last question we'll be able to deal with today. But what would you say about that if you're...
From a woman's perspective, let's say, well, we've been in that situation before. We're not, a couple of youngins. We've been around the block a few times. And we've been through some major transitions in the last, 5 to 10 years. Even there's been a couple of big ones where we were like, oh my gosh, this is like a stop and start over again kind of situation. Yeah. So we've walked that out. But I would say from the wife's perspective, one of the things that you can do for your husband is obviously the unconditional love element is powerful, but letting them know that your love for them is not based on what they do, but who they are. Yeah. And so reaffirming them that it's not a matter of lack of respect or you failed us as a family. There's so many families going through this right now.
Boy, I felt that at one time.
Oh my gosh. And
after the crash of the market.
Yes. Yeah.
In 2008.
And there's already that spouse is feeling like they are walking out one of the biggest failures, and that is to provide, at least keep up the lifestyle you've lived or whatever. So another thing that I would say though, based on that, is we've had to make big adjustments several times. Right. And one of the things I've tried to let Tim know, even when the kids were home, when those have happened, because there was times when we thought we're going to have to literally like dramatically downsize. And I just kept telling him, okay, it's fine. Like we still have each other. Yeah. We have the Lord. We have, our love, and God is faithful. And if it means we end up in a tiny little house, I've done that plenty of times.
So we had, I remember I was concerned. I knew where you were, but I was a little bit concerned about the kids as years. This is 2009. Yeah. And I mean, it really devastated us financially. Well, it seemed to be devastating us. And a source of income that I was used to kind of stopped there and didn't kind of stop. It did stop. And I find myself, wow, are we going to be able to continue to make mortgage payments and so forth? And then I went to the kids and I sat them down and said, hey, we may need to sell the house and move. And instead of them being upset, which we had this beautiful home we built for our blended family. Yeah. And we ended up not selling it at that time. We just sold it about 2 years ago. But all the way back then, we thought we were really going to have to sell it. And they were excited about the next venture, next journey. It was like, I was like, wait a minute, I've been stressing about that. So gentlemen, but also ladies, whoever's, making those, that money coming in, maybe both of you, probably both of you, don't panic. Downsizing is not the worst. We have downsized. We were in a rental for a year. We're in a different home, smaller. We love our home, but we're not living in poverty. We're just very thankful that any adjustment, and then we'll make more adjustments down the road. So this is that's part of life. What is not, that negotiable is our relationship. So we have each other. And if you can go with that, if your spouse is struggling with losing a job or struggling under this pandemic and needs encouragement, let them know that in fact, you are there.
Yes.
And the family is there. I think to assure him or her that this will pass. It's going to be over. It's going to be different. The worst case scenario that may be in your mind, if you're a catastrophizer, don't worry about it. Make some plans, make some adjustments. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
So.
Yep, absolutely. And I think another thing that helps with that is staying connected to real friends in that time, because a lot of times what will happen when a spouse, the main breadwinner, or even both, loses their income, there's a tendency to isolate out of shame, withdrawal. And it's definitely a season where we need each other and encouragement from people that know, that love us unconditionally. For us, obviously, those are relationships that have come through the church. For you, it might be family members or friendships that you've had through the years, but really be purposeful to try to stay connected if you can in these COVID times, and get some outside perspective encouragement going on in your life. And just remember that your identity, again, is not attached to what you do.
Yeah.
It is who you are.
When somebody says, "Who are you?" people will say,
I'm an engineer.
Exactly. Or I'm a mom, or I'm a dad, or I'm a businessman, or I'm, a pastor, whatever it is.
What you do.
But it's not who you are. Who you are is your connection to God, your connection to your family. That's who you are. Yeah. And it's really important to keep that in mind. So kind of one last thing is, if your spouse will help you organize your job search. Sometimes we get discouraged and we need another person to share with us kind of the organization of that. Not to hold us accountable. That could be really sticky. But to say, I'm
team
going to
up,
help
partner
you
up.
Yeah. Like how many are you seeing? That kind of thing. That's probably good. Or let's take a look at the resume. Let's look at, those kinds of things. Work together with this thing instead of making it about him or her, make it about us. The two of you. So thank you for listening to Hope Rescue Podcast. We've got some great questions for next week we want to share with you. And again, if you'd like to help out with Hope Rescue Podcast, go to hoperescue.org and see if you'd like to share in this ministry. God bless. We'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.